Thank you, Julie. So, actually, I'm going to put my view on gallery for a moment just to really see and connect with everyone. Um, so, just as I'm taking an arrival moment, then I invite everyone to take a moment and just, if you want to move through these screens and see who's gathered here in our community, and just feel yourself and our connection with one another on this Saturday afternoon in this time of gathering darkness in the winter. Each of us in our own space, and each of us also connected in our choice to come into community and engage with the topic of grief, which some of you are aware I have spoken several times. I think Julie reminded me this is my fourth visit to TLC, and I have shared each time on the topic of grief with a different focus or lens. And so today I'm going to orient to uh, the practice and possibility of nourishment and self-care and resourcing in our experience of grief. And I'm going to perhaps focus somewhat on personal grief and loss. And yet I was touched as I dropped online a few minutes before all of you this morning to realize that there are a number of us here, and that we, I think, are also drawn, perhaps through personal grief, but also through the grief of living on this imperiled planet, and the climate change and the challenges to life and well-being on our planet, as well as the challenges to peace and in our country, and feeling the dividedness, feeling the threats to certain vulnerable communities, and how unstable and uncertain and scary that can feel. So I want to name and acknowledge the breadth of our connection and engagement in gathering here together this afternoon. So I'd like to begin with a meditation, just inviting us all into more centered, grounded, present space. And so as it's comfortable for you, I invite you to either lower your gaze, or if you like, you can close your eyes and take a moment inviting your intention to rest more inwardly, connecting with the sensation of breath, such a quick and immediate way into embodiment, into now. Noticing the sensation of breath as it comes in through your nose, your sinuses, down your throat, feeling your chest and lungs expand. Taking a few longer breaths, allowing your exhale to be slow and extended. And on that out breath, feeling yourself drop down and land more deeply in your body, against your seat, feeling that contact with earth beneath you. Feeling your chest and lungs expand on the in-breath, and then that natural condensing on the out-breath. Allowing your face to soften, allowing your shoulders to soften and drop down. Feeling your belly soften. Noticing the sensations and feelings in your heart space, the energy that's present for you arriving in this gathering. Seeing if you might allow yourself, your heart, to be open to what's here. Allowing yourself to feel your feelings as you're also aware of your breath, the ground beneath you, and the open space around you. The open space within you of allowing, of breathing with. Noticing how your breath also breathes you. Noticing the natural rhythm and movement of breath. Taking a moment to be with, to breathe with what's here for you. Feeling how you can be this loving awareness that notices thoughts and feelings as they arise, are present, and also move. Feeling the ground again beneath you, the rhythm of your breath, and this quality of presence that is open, awake, and aware. So welcome and thank you for parting the waters of your life to come into a space where we will engage with what often doesn't have space to be named, to be felt, to be honored and received. So, a foundational premise for me and in what I'm sharing is that grief is a healthy and normal response to loss, and that loss pervades a human life, both in personal and immediate ways, and also, as I touched on very briefly in arriving, clearly in collective ways. The losses we are all affected by in our larger world, the threats to safety, to clean water, to clean air, to the flourishing of life and habitat and species on our planet. And so then, as Francis Weller said, a wonderful grief shaman and therapist, that sorrow is a sustained note in the song of being human. And so I'd like to lift up today the ways that we can tend our grief, recognizing that our grief is an expression of our love for what is lost or what is threatened or imperiled. And so, in orienting to how we might tend and be with and meet our grief, it's something very different than the feeling we might have that we need to fix or resolve or change our grief. Our instinct can be to run away, to hide or distract ourselves from our pain, but our grief is really asking for our presence. Our grief is in need of our kind, compassionate, and simple honesty and care. We're seeking ways to companion ourselves inside of our pain, both in our relationship to our own grief and seeking the companionship of those who are also willing or able to be with us inside of our grief or pain, to encounter others and aspects, dimensions of ourself that can stay present without judgment, without a need to fix or change or placate or calm or comfort us in our grief, but simply share comfort and ease through the simplicity of presence and care. And so the very first thing that we offer ourselves is permission to have our feelings and to have our experience. Our grief is appropriate. It's necessary, it's sacred. So when something can't be fixed, we can pay attention to it. We can feel it. We can turn towards our grief and say, I see you. I welcome you. I'm willing to stay. By allowing our grief and our pain to be present, to exist, then somehow it does change. There's a power in this bearing witness. And we also need to be held and met in our experience. And so then I will turn toward ways that we might receive that nourishment, that care. In a sense, we're seeking or we have the need of space that allows our experience, allows it to expand, to take the space it needs. And we're also seeking, in a sense, a container of love and care. And so we can meet ourselves both through our human relationships and also through our encounters with the natural world, with nature. It's healing to spend time in the natural or non-human world the ease of connecting with an animal, a dog or cat that is beloved, other animals, just in the simplicity of those encounters, the unconditioned love, the lack of conceptual entanglement. And so then in natural landscapes, when we step out, we might notice that we're often seeking a natural environment that's large enough to receive our experience. So again, as I mentioned, a space where our grief can spread out and take up space. And so when there's room to breathe, to expand, again, our pain can soften. And then sometimes we feel numb. And in that experience, it's enough to turn towards our hearts with a prayer or a wish or an invitation. May I open. May I be open. And so as we can turn towards and approach our grief, even if we're not able to actually feel it at that time, even if we can't make it all the way there, there is an honoring in that movement towards. And that in itself is significant and creates an opening that invites the possibility of deeper feeling as we go on, as we live. And so we cultivate trust in ourselves, in the wisdom of our hearts, and we seek to find ways to connect and attune to this inner knowing. And so a question we might pose to our hearts is, what do you need? In addressing your own heart, you might say, darling, what do you need? How can I meet you right now? And then listen inwardly, noticing our own experience. What offers even moments of respite or ease? And then what do we notice in our experience can cause a contraction or a disturbance? How can we pay attention to subtle changes or differences in our experience and be as responsive as possible? There isn't anything that you need to do with your grief or about your grief. It simply is. And there are also ways that we can give our grief attention and care. Ways that we can tend to ourselves inside of our grief, meet ourselves within the experience of grieving. It's really different than trying to get out of our grief or escape from that. One of my clients describes his experience. He says that a friend asked him, what do you do every day? He had lost his wife recently and wasn't working. And he responded, I'm active in my grief. And I thought that was such a beautiful expression. He said, I'm active in my grief. He walks a lot. He brings himself to places that were meaningful and important to himself and his wife and their relationship and their life together. He might sit in different spots and paint a watercolor painting, engaging a calm and meditative practice while being outside in a place that's meaningful or significant. And then he'll bring that painting back to what he calls a remembrance table. Kind of moves away from the word altar, but I would say an altar. And that practice of creating a space of remembrance can even be ritualized. Choosing to notice and bring back objects of beauty, a stone, a leaf, a flower, gather photos or images that are meaningful, and bringing these things back, creating a space of remembrance and altar. And then maybe again in a ritualized way, standing at that space, offering a tea light or a stick of incense, and just communing with that which you've lost. Having a quiet moment to connect, perhaps to speak with, or simply be in the presence of both a loved one and the absence, the loss of their presence. And so engaging the practice of offering light, gathering objects, and in offering of our presence, our engagement, our connection. So the essential practice is one of meeting our hearts, of feeling connection with ourselves, with others, with place, and what we've lost. Again, in an essential way, the practice is to be kind to oneself, to allow our feelings, our experience without judgment, without a sense that we need to be over or move past or transcend what we're feeling, the immediacy of our pain. We can also attune to different qualities of our environment in this practice of meeting. Are we seeking intimacy, connection, containment, contact, or openness? I remember when I was working with hospice, I knew that I needed very often to be close to water. And I would feel and reflect, do I want to be at the still and quiet water of the marsh, with different ponds, soft greenery, birds, or do I want to be near the crashing open ocean? Or maybe I'd like to be embraced in the intimacy of forest and trees, the redwood forest. So the different qualities of place met me in different ways. So there's something about paying attention to the subtle shifts in how you feel. Notice what gives you even the smallest sense of peace or calm. The pain or grief will still be there, but we can notice that we're touching moments of greater stillness or calm around that. Another beautiful practice is to connect, with specific intention to our elemental world. You can gaze into a candle flame or the fire. You can take a hot bath and immerse in the element of water, or swim, or sit near running water, or by the ocean. You can lie against the earth and feel her unconditioned support. Feel your body pressed against that stability, that presence. Or gaze into the sky and feel the quality of what each element offers to you. And you can also, all of us can be thoughtful and create new rituals and practices to meet our collective losses and our individual losses. It can be as simple as mindfully placing a stone at the base of a tree, or writing the qualities of things we cherish or memories and burning that in a small fire and offering the ashes into living water. It can be offering a tea light each day and pausing to reflect and remember with a sense that we're offering our love, our honoring. So ritual can remind us of what we lost, what we love, and it also in some way through the repetition or the joining of our intention with the physicality of movement and substance and object and element, it can help us to metabolize our loss, our fears. It's a practice of honoring, and it can connect us with a felt sense of meaning. And then I was touched by these words from Roshi Joan Halifax. She says, it's also important to recall our values as we grieve, what's given our life meaning and purpose, felt sense of connection. She asks, what do you care about? Whom have you served in the course of your life? What obstacles have you overcome? Whom have you loved? Who needs to be forgiven? So we can also engage the practice of taking stock of noticing, reflecting on what have been sources of strength in our lives? And how have we learned through our struggles, through our failures, through our connections, and where connection has been lost? So I just wanted to share those broad reflections on ritual, on connection that offers meaning, and to orient all of us to what nourishes your heart in times of loss or challenge or fear. What gives us a felt sense of connection? And how can we support ourselves to stay present with what's here for ourselves? And I was touched too, making the connection, even this morning as I was reflecting on some of my notes, and that we can seek a physically vast and open space to sit near the ocean or gaze into the sky, seeking an openness that receives in a way that's unconditioned. And we can also, just in the intimacy of sitting in your own living room, on your floor, on your bed, in a chair, in your space, and access the openness of being within ourselves that's unconditioned, that has no judgment, that allows and receives and embraces, in a sense, our experience. Because that is the essence of healing. The essence of healing is a felt sense of being received, of being seen, of allowing our experience, our feelings, our raw pain or despair or grief to be just as it is, without any sense that something's wrong or deficient, that needs to be held to some different standard of peace or good cheer. This gathering is about welcoming and honoring the sacredness of what's not cheerful, what's not easy, what often is not welcomed in a communal or collective space, or held back either through our own hesitation or fear, or through the active messages we receive from others' attempts to comfort or reassure in ways that communicate to us, I'm not okay with your experience, and I need it to change. So we're all seeking places and connections and containers that are okay with our experience. The most intimate being our own hearts and the heart space of awareness, being, that can always receive and allow what's here. So I think I'll pause and maybe just in closing, I will share one more poem because it seems related to our sharing. And again, it's by Rosemary Woods. It's called For When People Ask. I want a word that means okay and not okay. More than that, a word that means devastated and stunned with joy. I want the word that says I feel it all at once. The heart is not like a songbird, singing only one note at a time, or like a tuvan throat singer, able to sing both a drone and simultaneously 2 or 3 harmonics high above it, a sound, the tuvans say, that gives the impression of wind swirling among rocks. The heart understands swirl, how the churning of opposite feelings weaves through us like an insistent breeze, leads us wordlessly deeper into ourselves, blesses us with paradox, so we might walk more openly into this world so rife with devastation, this world so ripe with joy. So thank you all very much for being here. And then perhaps rather than sharing a more formal dedication, I invite us all to pause and really from the depths of your heart, extend the love and compassion and inclusion and wisdom and care of this gathering out as a source of healing and awakening and blessing for all mother sentient beings. May everyone be held in a space of compassion and safety and love. Sarva Mangalam. So thank you all for being here, truly, and for the friends who were here and offered their presence with no words. Julie, thank you very much, and thank you to TLC, your wonderful support and the amazing programs that you hold and the space that you hold in the world. Thank you very much.